The street was quiet. Too quiet. Porch lights glowed like watchful eyes, and every house looked the same. Perfect lawns, neat fences, rules written into the very ground. But behind that calm, something darker waited. Karen, the loudest voice of the HOA, stood at her window. She never missed a thing. Every weed pulled, every car parked wrong, every trash can left out too long. She saw it all. And tonight, her eyes were locked on one house. Her neighbor. The one who never bowed to the rules. She muttered under her breath, a whisper sharp as broken glass. He thinks he can ignore us? Not on my watch. Karen's war had started small. Little notes stuck to his door, written in her neat but angry handwriting. Warnings about fences, paint colors, even the height of his grass. When that didn't work, she used stares, long, burning looks across the yard, as if her eyes alone could force him to obey. But nothing worked. He stayed calm, too calm, and that made her rage grow stronger. Then it happened. Just past midnight, headlights cut through the street. A delivery truck rolled up to his driveway. The sound of heavy crates thumping against the pavement made Karen's heart race. She pressed her face against the glass, her jaw tightening. What is he hiding? Men in dark uniforms unloaded strange equipment, boxes marked with warning signs, shapes wrapped in thick black tarps. They moved quickly, too quickly, like they didn't want anyone to see. Karen's breath caught. To her, it wasn't just boxes. It was proof. Proof that her neighbor was dangerous. Proof that he was breaking the rules. Proof that she, Karen, was right all along. Her hand trembled as she reached for the phone. She didn't think. She didn't question. She just dialed 3 numbers she thought would save her street. 911. Her voice was sharp, urgent. Yes, officer. I need you here right away. My neighbor is hiding.
Thing. Something illegal. I know it.
She hung up, her chest pounding. For a moment the street returned to silence. The truck drove away. The crates vanished inside his garage. Only the faint hum of machinery remained. Then, sirens. The sound split the night like a blade. Red and blue lights washed over the quiet homes, bouncing off mailboxes and manicured lawns. Curtains twitched. Shadows moved behind windows. One by one, the neighbors woke, eyes wide, whispers spreading like wildfire. Something was happening. Something big. Karen stepped outside, her arms crossed, her smile thin and victorious. She could already see it. The police dragging her neighbor out, the HOA thanking her for her bravery, the whole street finally safe because she had acted. But in the back of her mind, a faint unease stirred. She didn't know what was inside that garage. She didn't know what the police would find. And she didn't know, couldn't know, that tonight would change everything. The patrol cars stopped in front of the house. Doors opened. Officers stepped out, their boots crunching against the pavement. The neighbors leaned closer to their windows. No one spoke. No one moved. The silence was heavy, almost painful, until the first knock echoed through the night. 3 hard raps against the door. Everyone waited. The door opened. The man stepped out, calm, collected, a faint smile on his face, as the flashing lights painted him in red and blue. Karen's heart raced with triumph. This is it, she thought. But she was wrong. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning. And nothing in the neighborhood would ever be the same. The flashing lights still danced across the quiet street when Karen finally snapped. She couldn't just stand there and watch. Not when the whole neighborhood was staring. Not when her chance to prove herself was right in front of her. She stormed across the lawn, clutching a folder of HOA papers she had grabbed earlier. Rules, fines, notices, all her weapons stacked in one neat pile. The officers had barely spoken a word to the homeowner when Karen shoved herself into the scene. "This man is breaking HOA rules," she shouted, waving the papers like a flag of war. Her voice carried across the street, sharp enough to cut through the hum of police radios. "He's hiding dangerous stuff in his house. I told you I knew it." The neighbors gasped. Some leaned closer to their windows. Others stepped onto their porches, drawn in by the drama. Karen didn't stop. She never stopped once she started. Her words poured out fast, tangled with anger and pride. "He's been sneaking around for weeks, deliveries at night, strange noises in that garage. And now you see the proof. Crates, machines, illegal machines. He thinks he's above the law, but he isn't above me. I mean, he isn't above the HOA." Her face was flushed, her finger jabbing toward the homeowner as if she could pin him to the spot with her accusations alone. The officers exchanged uneasy looks. This wasn't what they had expected. They had answered a call about something illegal. Now they were caught in a storm of neighborhood politics. "Ma'am," one officer said carefully, holding up his hand, "please calm down. Let us handle this." But Karen wasn't listening. Her voice grew louder, sharper, fueled by the attention. "You don't understand. He's putting all of us in danger. He's breaking the law and breaking our rules. Search his house. Do it now. You'll see I'm right." The homeowner stood silent, arms crossed. "T'excuse," Maul's smirk on his face. He didn't argue. He didn't shout. His calmness made Karen's fury seem even more wild. The lead officer turned toward him. "Sir, would you be willing to talk? Maybe clear this up before it goes any further?" The man nodded, his voice steady. "Of course. I've got nothing to hide." That answer only fueled Karen's fire. She threw her hands in the air, her papers scattering like snow across the grass. "He's lying! Don't believe him! Just go inside! You'll see everything I've been telling you!" The officers looked at one another again, caught between a furious neighbor and a calm homeowner. They had a choice: walk away and risk missing something, or step inside and see the truth for themselves. Finally, the lead officer sighed. "All right, we'll take a look." Karen's eyes lit up with victory. Her lips curled into a grin. In her mind, she had already won. Soon, her neighbor would be exposed, dragged out in front of everyone, proof of her power sealed forever. But what waited inside that garage was nothing she could have imagined, and once the door opened, there would be no turning back. The night air felt heavy as the officers stepped closer to the house. The blue and red lights washed over the driveway, and all eyes turned to the man at the center of it all. The homeowner stepped forward, calm as ever, no fear in his face, no anger in his voice. He stood straight, his hands loose at his sides, as if this was nothing more than a quiet chat with neighbors. Karen couldn't take it. His calmness drove her mad. She jabbed her finger at him, her voice cracking through the silence. "See? He's dangerous! Arrest him now before it's too late!" The words echoed across the street, bouncing off the houses, reaching every ear that dared to listen. Curtains fluttered as more neighbors peeked out, drawn by the growing storm. But the man didn't flinch. He didn't even look at her. Instead, a faint smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth, as though he already knew how this night would end. The lead officer cleared his throat. "Sir, your neighbor made some serious claims. She says you've been hiding equipment, possibly dangerous. Would you care to explain?" The man's eyes met the officer's, steady and sure. "Of course," he said softly. "You're welcome to look. But what you'll find is nothing illegal, nothing harmful, only work far ahead of its time." His words were calm, but they carried weight. Even the officers paused, unsure what to make of him. Karen exploded again, her voice sharp as broken glass. "Don't listen to him. He's lying to you. He's been sneaking things into that garage for weeks. Everyone here has seen it. Just open the door, and you'll know I'm right." The homeowner finally turned toward her. His smirk grew into a smile, cold, steady, almost daring. "Careful, Karen," he he said, his tone smooth but edged. "You've asked for the truth. Once you see it, you can't take it back." She blinked, caught off guard for just a second, but pride pushed her forward. "I don't care. Show them. Show everyone what you've been hiding." The officers looked between them, the furious HOA leader and the calm man who stood like he held all the cards. They knew the choice was no longer theirs. The door would open. The man reached for the handle, his movements slow, deliberate. The garage loomed behind him, dark and silent, like a secret waiting to breathe. Karen's chest swelled with triumph. She thought victory was seconds away. She thought her neighbor was about to be exposed, humiliated in front of the entire street. But she was wrong. She didn't realize she had just forced open a door she could never close. And once the truth stepped into the light, nothing in the neighborhood, or the world, would be the same. The garage door groaned as it lifted, metal grinding against metal. A thin strip of light spilled across the driveway, stretching into the night. The officers stepped forward, flashlights ready, their beams cutting through the shadows inside. The neighbors held their breath. Even the cicadas seemed to fall silent. Inside, the light revealed something strange. Rows of wires snaking across the floor, blinking panels fixed to the walls, and tall machines standing like silent guards. The glow from the devices was soft but steady, casting an otherworldly light against the concrete. One officer froze. His voice dropped to a whisper. "What is this?" The homeowner stepped inside calmly, as if inviting them into his living room. His hand brushed across one of the glowing panels, and the machine hummed in response, a low, steady pulse that seemed alive. "It's not what you think," he said, his tone quiet but certain. "This isn't illegal. This isn't dangerous. It's a prototype energy core, clean power, years ahead of its time." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Karen's jaw dropped. Her face twisted, caught between shock and fury. This wasn't what she wanted. She had expected boxes of drugs, stolen weapons, or something else she could wave like a trophy. Instead, she had dragged the entire neighborhood to witness something extraordinary, something that made her accusations look small and foolish. The officers glanced at each other, their flashlights sweeping over the glowing wires and sleek panels. Their expressions shifted from suspicion to disbelief. This was no crime scene. This was something far bigger. One of them muttered under his breath, "This is way above our pay grade." The homeowner stood tall, his voice steady as stone. "I built this to break free from control. Free energy, no companies, no bills, no restrictions. Power for anyone who needs it." His eyes flicked toward Karen. "But some people fear freedom, don't they?" Karen's cheeks burned. She tried to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. The neighbors' whispers began to rise behind her. Some were stunned, some were excited, and some were scared. But one thing was clear. This was no longer about trash cans, fences, or HOA rules. The officers lowered their flashlights, their faces tense. They had come for a petty complaint, but instead they had stepped into something that could change the world. And they knew, just as the neighbors did, that nothing in this quiet street would ever be ordinary again. By morning, the whole street was buzzing. Word spread faster than wildfire. Neighbors whispered on porches, leaned over fences and gathered in small circles. They all spoke about the same thing, the machine hidden inside that garage. Some voices trembled with fear. "What if it explodes? What if it's dangerous?" they muttered. Others glowed with excitement. "Clean power? Free energy? Do you understand what this means?" The story twisted with every retelling. Some said it looked like alien tech. Others claimed it was government work. But one truth remained. Something incredible was hidden right in their neighborhood, and Karen had dragged it into the light. Karen, of course, wasn't about to stay silent. She marched up and down the street, puffing out her chest, her words sharp and loud enough for everyone to hear. "I saved this neighborhood," she declared, pointing toward the house. "If it wasn't for me, none of you would know what's been hiding there. I did this for all of us. You should be thanking me." But her words rang hollow. People exchanged glances, smirks tugging at the corners of their mouths. They knew the truth. Karen hadn't saved anyone. She had only called the police out of spite. And instead of exposing danger, she had revealed something historic. Something bigger than the HOA, bigger than all of them. The homeowner stayed quiet, watching from his porch as Karen tried to spin the story. He didn't need to defend himself. The evidence was already there. The glow from the garage, the hum of the machine, it spoke louder than any words. One neighbor finally said what many were thinking. "Karen didn't save us. She just made herself look foolish." Laughter rippled through the group. Karen's face burned red, but she kept shouting, desperate to hold on to her power. Yet power was slipping from her hands. The HOA, once feared and obeyed, suddenly felt small and powerless compared to what had been discovered. Who cared about lawn heights or mailbox paint when a machine that could change the future sat glowing in a garage? The balance had shifted. The rules of the neighborhood no longer seemed important. And deep down, Karen felt it. The authority she clung to was crumbling. The whispers of the neighborhood did not stay in the neighborhood. By the next day, black SUVs rolled down the street. Men in suits stepped out, their faces hard, their eyes locked on the glowing garage. Government officials had arrived. They didn't ask about fences. They didn't ask about lawn heights or HOA rules. Their questions were sharp and direct. What is inside? How does it work? Who built this? Karen rushed forward, desperate to be heard. "Finally! You need to shut this down. He's breaking every rule." But the men brushed past her as if she wasn't even there. To them, she was background noise. The only thing that mattered was the machine. The homeowner stood calm on his porch, waiting for the questions to end. When the silence finally came, he spoke. "I built it to break free," he said, his voice steady and strong. "Free from control. Free from endless bills, fees and rules that choke people every day. Energy should not belong to corporations, or boards, or HOAs. Energy should be free, for everyone." His words carried across the crowd. Neighbors leaned closer, eyes wide. Even the officials paused. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Karen broke the silence. Her voice screeched over the crowd. "Lies! All lies! He's dangerous, can't you see? He's breaking the rules. But her voice was drowned out. The people around her no longer listened. The crowd had shifted, their attention fixed on the man who stood against control. They weren't hearing a neighbor. They were hearing a leader. And for the first time, the HOA was powerless. Their rules, their fines, their petty threats, all of it crumbled under the weight of something greater. Karen's voice faded into the noise of the gathering, weak and empty. The balance of power had changed forever. The street never returned to normal. The quiet rows of houses, once ruled by the HOA, now carried a new hum, a steady pulse of energy that came from the garage at the center of it all. The homeowner's invention did not stay hidden for long. Word spread beyond the block, beyond the city, until the world began to notice. The machine promised clean, endless power, no more monthly bills, no more companies holding people hostage, no more control. Slowly, other machines began to appear. Copies built in new garages, in workshops, in warehouses. What started as one man's dream grew into a movement that changed lives everywhere. Lights burned brighter. Families saved money. People lived freer. But not everyone was remembered kindly. Karen's name lived on, but not in the way she wanted. She wasn't remembered as the woman who protected her neighborhood. She was remembered as the one who tried to crush progress, the one who let her pride blind her to history being made right in front of her. The neighbors never forgot the night she called the cops. They never forgot how her own actions revealed something greater than herself, and they never let her forget it either. She thought she would rise as a hero. Instead, she faded into whispers and laughter, a cautionary tale told over backyard fences. The homeowner, however, stood taller than ever. The call meant to destroy him had only made him stronger. The story closed with one line, echoing across the street, etched into memory. She thought calling the cops would bring him down, but it only lifted him higher. The screen fades to black. Suspenseful music builds, then quiets to a low hum, leaving the audience with one final question. What if this happened in your neighborhood?